Hey everyone, I want to give you a big welcome to today's class. For anyone who might be new to me, my name is Brentan. I'll be guiding us through. You can expect something slow and strong and focused on hip flexion. So what we'll be primarily working on is the muscles around the legs and around the butt area. When you're ready, go ahead and join me at the top of the mat. We already know from working on our knees last time that the weight-bearing axis in the legs goes down outer hip to outer knee to outer foot. So go ahead and look down, just see that that's true for you on both sides, as true as you can make it. Let's go ahead and just take a couple of knee bounces here so we can begin to notice which direction our knees are tracking. For most bodies, anatomical neutral is knees over second toes. So we're gonna try to create that unless you know something different about how your skeleton's built. And then just go ahead and rock and roll onto the fronts and backs of the feet here a little bit. So making sure we feel really nice and alive in the legs before we try to use them. It takes a while to be able to pay attention with detail, with sensitivity. So just rocking up and down on the feet. Try to get as sensitive as you can. Weight the feet down at the center. If you want, just walk on your tiptoes a little bit and get real sensitive there. So see, can I weight my feet down evenly through the center of the foot? Getting nice and long up through the rest of the body. Deep breathing, a little bit low. Relaxing the feet down. I'm gonna kind of wag out through my knees one at a time. So what I'm looking for is the ability to set my leg in straight without sort of over-efforting or asking too much of any one area. Everything should feel pretty relaxed, pretty even, pretty equal. As you now pull the knees back over the ankles, draw the thigh bone straight up into the hips. Take the hands onto the waist side here, and now it's here we can begin to feel the sweet little pelvis of ours. So make sure you can feel your frontal hip bones on the front, the ASIS, just grabbing around nice and loosely. And I want you to see if you can get sensitive now for your torso. Start to breathe into the lower abdomen first. So there's actually like how we set our torso is connected to how we set our pelvis. So if we're breathing higher into the chest, it's gonna be harder for us to actually set the pelvis in neutral. So when we invite the breath a little bit lower, a little bit fuller, as if we could fill up the room of the torso, which ends down here at the base of the pelvis, as if we could fill that up with light. That's how we're utilizing our breath, way down deep. As if we could get longer through the front of the pelvis. So the flesh, I kind of always like imagine like really like controlled spaciousness through the whole underwear area on the front of the body. So as if that underwear crease could start to draw up towards the armpit. And it can do that without locking out your knees, so your legs still feel powerful. You could always like keep bending into your legs. So softness in your joints, bentness in your joints should always be possible. Now this is important because when we start to flex the hips, that's just one joint change. And we want to be able to control that and not kind of, for the purposes of what we're doing today, not move the other areas of our body. Because when we move the other areas of the body, that indicates a little bit of compensation, right? So we want to make this really honest, because that's when it's going to be the most effective. Because what we're trying to do is really condition and develop the muscles of the legs and hips. So from here, I'm going to take a soft bend in the knee without changing my pelvis's relationship to my head, just a soft bend into the knees. And we're going to work on pelvis hinges. Pelvis hinges, backs of the legs go up as we start to hinge the pelvis and the upper body with it. So we're going to go up and down. And we can keep a soft bend into the knee. You may not go as far down as me. Your pelvis hinge might just be a little bit, but we're really trying to create this from the pelvis, really elongating that front body. So on your way down, you even feel like you're recruiting some muscles in the abdomen And that's gonna help keep your pelvis through your spine really stable. What we're doing is we're actively controlling this movement now from our hip flexors rather than just letting our skeleton kind of tumble forward into something that looks like a fold. No, we're being much more deliberate. We're trying to feel the distinction between the thighs and the pelvis, rotating the pelvis forward over the thighs. Now, come back up to center. We're gonna vary the legs, which is gonna make it more challenging for us to feel with specificity what's going on with the pelvis and the head. So step one of your feet back a little bit, the toes might turn out. We're gonna have hands on the waist again. I'm just gonna kind of rock forward and backward in my legs, even like the knees can be soft during that action, just so I can try to set my pelvis evenly between the 2 feet, front to back. Okay, then I'm using my legs evenly. I really want to get specific with this. Like, think of your legs as having 2 tracks. They have an inside track and an outside track. And we want all of those tracks, that's 4 total, to be working evenly, drawing down and up as the knees bend or as the ankles move, right? And so then we're wearing the joints evenly. We're not, in other words, asking like the inside of a joint to do too much work. We're maintaining healthy joint positions as we move. And so from here, we're gonna take pelvis hinges again. So I'm gonna start to go down. And now that the legs are doing something different, my back leg's gonna bend a little bit more. This is more for my front leg. And when you come down to like the halfway situation, go ahead and pause there. Really make sure your pelvis is tilting so the backs of the legs are lifting. I can feel this already in the back of my right hip. And it's here, I'm gonna cue it, although it might not be relevant for everyone. We need our our right hip to move away from its armpit. And so essentially just, am I using my legs evenly? Down through the feet, up into the hips. Could I put like a cup of coffee on my low back? Oh, I don't think that was true for me just then. And so it takes a while to feel yourself here, really trying to feel the hip creases with specificity. Again, we're working on that flexion. And so when you're ready, pressing down, coming back up. Taking those a couple more times. Step your back foot forward at last, and you can just trade your side. So one of your feet back, and at first you're just kind of rocking a little bit forward and back, trading the effort in the legs, and you're trying to meet somewhere at center where even effort through the legs, pelvis set evenly between the feet, hip bones to armpits are evenly distanced. Okay, can you see why I'm saying that? Because otherwise your pelvis is kind of slopped over to one side, right? So we need our side waist to be equally long. And it's very important we get this here, because only when we can feel this, we can be specific and sensitive to it. Now, one joint change, the joints of the legs can also change too to help me do this, but not the joints of the upper body. So coming down, pause at that halfway mark. And it's here, you know, if you need to ever feel your feet, lift your toes to feel your feet. Remember how we were like practicing lifting and then feeling how the feet engage. So do that for yourself here. Feel how that rides up into the leg. Maybe some of us need to take the left hip back away from its armpit. We need to feel with our hands, what's my pelvis doing? Could I put a cup of coffee on that low back? Could I get long out through the skull? And then when you're ready, come all the way back on up. Okay, here we go. We're going to go down a few times, just trying to feel that specificity. And as you're ready, go ahead, bring that back foot in. Good job, you guys. From here, we're going to take a soft bend into the knee. And the hips are gonna flex, but they're gonna sit back. So when I'm talking about flexed hips, I'm talking about a deep crease back there, a deep crease. And you can always like put your thumbs in that crease and kind of press it down and back. Press your crease down and back. Press your crease down and back. At the same time, let your knees draw forward, but really draw that crease back. Lengthen out through your skull. Breathe easy, get soft in your face. Get bouncy here. And as you're bouncing, don't lose the crease. Keep the crease. Keep your thumbs, if you want to even feel them as like a challenge, squeeze your thumbs between your legs and your pelvis, okay? Try to use your legs evenly. Now just take the hands to the front of the knees. Relax up just a little bit, but kind of keep the essence of it. So soft knees, pelvis down and back. And now we're going to try to mobilize the pelvis here. So inhale, anterior tilt. Take the front pelvis forward. Lift the backs of your upper legs up. And then scoop into posterior tilt. So scoop the tailbone round back. And it's okay for these purposes if the spine goes with you, but just try to feel this in your legs, in your pelvis. And remember that hip movement is the thigh moving in the pelvis or the pelvis moving over the thigh. So think here of the pelvis rotating over the thigh bone and rotating around it. And notice how much variation is happening in your sweet legs. So try to use your legs evenly. And the next time you come forward to that anterior tilt here, okay, that's starting the hip hinge, that's starting the flexion. So you feel like you're sticking your butt back. If this feels not normal for you, it will once you start practicing it some more. So just keep sticking that butt back. We're gonna see now, how much can I go over my legs? Can I go any more? Can I lift the backs of my legs up towards a more straight position? And I just start to assess, what do I got? What do I got? And you can stay exactly where we just were, working on that, or you can begin to take the upper body more towards a forward fold position, which is more of just kind of like relaxing through the upper body, really doing a good job to engage the legs evenly, to flex the hips fully. And there's no like deliberate effort to straighten the legs. It's just kind of like whatever they will give you. Whatever they will give you and whatever they will give you evenly. Wearing the feet evenly, wearing the ankles evenly, the knees evenly. When you're ready in your own time, maybe bend the knees a little bit more, roll all the way on up to stand. And from here, I just have one more thing for us. Maybe take the feet a little bit wider. Keep them neutral, anatomically neutral. So no internal rotation of the legs, no external rotation. We'll know more about that in a couple of weeks. But it's here that I'd like us to revisit our pelvis hinge, okay? So a little soft knees, legs evenly, up through the skull evenly, breathing nice and deep. Okay, we're gonna rotate the pelvis forward over the thigh bones, coming to a tabletop halfway if you can. And it's here, this is our pelvis hinge, right? So if you're grabbing around, try to actually squeeze some fingers there. So really getting that nice pelvic flexion. And then maybe bending the knees a little bit. Keep the tilt. The moment you scoop into posterior tilt, we're not interested. That's not flexion. We're not interested. We are interested in flexion here. So we get our flexion, and then we bend the knees a little bit, and then we maintain the flexion as we tension the hamstrings, lifting the backs of the legs up. Okay, so that's the motion. We maintain the tilt. That's the hardest part. As you bend and as you straighten. The more honest you are, the better it will feel. We're trying to make our shit work good. And when it works good, it feels good. If you want another forward fold, you can take that. If you'd rather just come up to a stand or keep working on your hamstring tensioning, you can do that as well. Good job, you guys. And as you're ready, press down, go ahead, come on up to stand, whatever way is best. Okay, so what we just did was a lot of rotating the pelvis over the thigh bone. But what if we did it the other way, where we hold our pelvis still and we move the thigh bone in the socket? So I'm going to, this is going to be a little bouncy. Pardon me. So if, if balance is something that you're still kind of, it takes a lot of your concentration, I really invite you to use a wall, a counter, a chair, something like that for support, just so your attention is freed up to pay attention to some hip flexing work. So I'm gonna step with my feet together so that they're more like centered underneath the frame of the body. That way I won't feel like I need to do so much adjustment just to pick a leg up off the floor. But it's from here that I wanna kind of assess like a vertical line through the body, rooting down through the feet, drawing up through the legs into the hips. I'm trying to secure a neutral pelvis. For me, my butt has to work to keep the tailbone drawing forward into neutral. Otherwise, I have an anterior pelvic tilt. I already know that about me. So it kind of depends on like what your work is, because if you are really scooped under, it's gonna feel like it's gonna take you more work just to kind of lift through the upper hamstrings, right? So figure out how you can support yourself at neutral here, very specifically, lifting all the way up, chest open as best you know how, skull drawing right up over the shoulders as best you know how, taking a couple of deep low breaths into the abdomen. And as you do this, the instruction is to be soft in your face, soften your eyes to a still point in front of you, and flush your whole body with attention. And so if I wanted to truly flex my hips here, I would need to move my leg without moving my pelvis. So what if I don't move my pelvis and I just try to pull my left heel off the ground and then back down and up and down and up and down and keep going. And if you're really honest with yourself, you're gonna be like, holy crap, everything's moving. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop the hip flexor. We wanna develop it to do its own work here. So that means we need to hold everything nice and still around it, even if it feels really effortful through the bottom or through the other leg. And then this can be enough place to work, or the next time you pull the heel up, maybe you decide to pull the leg off the ground entirely in front of you. Where take breaks when you need to, by the way, but I'm just gonna get a little bit bouncy in the standing leg here. And as I do this, I'm gonna ensure, this is my time to neutralize my bottom leg. Knee out through the second toe, outer hip to outer knee to outer foot. And as I bounce, my pelvis goes straight back behind me. It's not swaying off to either side. So now I know I'm good to go in my standing leg. I'm nice and neutral there. And as I come back upright, I'm gonna see, can I roll my pelvis forward and underneath a few times, just to kind of free up some areas. So I can actually begin to feel what a neutral pelvis is. So neutral pelvis, now don't move the neutral pelvis, but use the left leg and squeeze it towards the body. It's intense. We're here for 3, for 2, and for 1. Thanks for playing, you guys. Take the foot down, release and relax in any way that's comfortable. So we're really strengthening the hip flexor, developing our body's ability to do this. We're training the muscles how to do their jobs. Come back. I'm gonna take feet together again. I'm gonna take a few moments to find myself in a nice upright position. I'm gonna embody that with my attention so that it's easy for me to hold my attention here as we move forward. And I'm gonna stay nice and strong as I can as I begin to lift my right heel up and lower it down. Trying to feel the standing leg working evenly below me. Both tracks of the leg, the inside, the outside. Trying to be as honest as I can. And as it feels right, maybe I bring the right leg farther in front into flexion, into balance, right? Taking breaks when we need. I'm gonna bend the standing leg, get a little bouncy here where I can begin to establish neutral. Strengthening that. So each bounce, it's gonna have to learn how to bounce back from it, how to stabilize, right? And so now when I feel like I have that in neutral, I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna take my hands onto my hips, and I'm just gonna start working anterior tilt, posterior tilt. I'm gonna try to feel my hip bones still line up through the center knee. My center knee always lining up through my center ankle and my second toe. And then the next time I come up, I'm gonna see, can I get sensitive enough to set my pelvis in neutral? And then just using the muscles of my right leg, my right bottom, whatever I need to recruit in this area, can I draw the right thigh bone closer in? Don't move the pelvis. Don't scoop the tailbone farther underneath. We're trying to work this crease right in here. Amplify the crease as much as you can, as much as you can. Good job, you guys. Take it down. Breathe, maybe roll out a little bit. Okay, when we go, I was gonna do something in a chair, but I don't think we'll do that because I think we just did that. But what I would like us to have handy is perhaps a yoga block if you have one. And if you don't, maybe like a Tupperware. Tupperware will be good because we're looking for something light, but something that's firm, okay? So why don't we come down to the mat onto our hands and our knees. Let's roll around in the pelvis a little bit. Trying to free up some of that area. Now set your pelvis at neutral with your spine as best you can feel that. Really amplify that crease right there, that underwear crease. Now, can I tuck my toes without tucking my tailbone? So I maintain that flexion. And I want to maintain this flexion. I don't want my tailbone to tuck. That'll ruin the whole thing. I'm going to press down. I'm going to lift my knees to a hover. Okay, I want to maintain that crease. That's the most important thing. Maintain your crease. Make it dramatic. Press your hips up and back towards a downward facing dog. But don't think about straight legs in this downward facing dog. No, think about flexion. Think about belly and thighs close together. Really long. Really long. Really long. Good job, you guys. Take the knees down. Let's come down to our backs. Okay, where we can step our feet close into the pelvis. And we want to be sensitive. Set your pelvis well so that from hip bone to armpit, you're equidistant on both sides. Set your legs well, coming out, so your outer hip, outer knee, outer ankle. Okay, so the legs are both in flexion already, right? The hips are both in flexion already because neutral is just a straight body. So I'm gonna ask for more flexion for my right leg. I'm not gonna try to move my pelvis. I'm gonna pull my right leg in and just kind of wrap my hands around. As I pull my right leg in, I want to notice the inner and outer track of that leg. And I want to pull it in such a way that the inner and outer track are working evenly. Even space, even length from hip to knee, knee to ankle. And then I want to do that with my left leg as well. So both legs, I can feel them. I have energy there. I have a tension there. They feel like everything's working evenly. Now, where's your block or your Tupperware? Go ahead, take it and snuggle it into that crease as deep as you can get it. And then use your right thigh to squeeze the Tupperware, but don't move your hip. So one of the things here is like your right hip is gonna wanna hike up to your right armpit. We have to resist that. We just have to use that hip flexor muscle. Now you can stay here or you can lengthen Mr. Left Leg forward. You gotta work out any variation that happened in the pelvis when you did that. So you get yourself nice and even and equal again, the tracks of the legs working, and then lengthening the left leg down to the floor so that the front of the left hip now can stretch. The front of the left hip. Good, go ahead, draw your left leg into your belly, release the block, kind of work out through the legs like butterfly a little bit. Sole of the right foot down, hugging the left leg in. Take a moment to feel the tracks of the legs, to feel your pelvis weighted evenly left to right on the ground, all the good stuff. As you feel ready, go ahead, release your hands, take the block, snuggle it as deep into the crease as you can get it. Then use your leg to hold the block in place. Do not rotate that side of the pelvis up to the armpit. Use the leg evenly. If you want, stretch the right leg. Work out any little variation that did for your pelvis, because it always pulls, for me, it pulls that side of the pelvis down with it because the leg's so heavy. So I just need to do some work to reorient the pelvis between the legs, between the armpits, and then lengthen the right thigh bone down to the ground without pulling that side of the pelvis down with it, right? Because we're really trying to open that flesh on the front of the pelvis. So we gotta have the bones be held really deliberately. Oh my gosh, thanks for playing today, you guys. When you're ready, go ahead, draw your right leg back into your belly, release your block out. Maybe butterfly through the knees, anything that feels good. We can just set you up in a nice, easy Shavasana. So an active rest position for the hips might feel nice, maybe. Soles of the feet outside the hips, let the knees rest in on each other. Relax your hands to your body someplace. Close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose, the biggest breath you've had all day. Hold at the very top. And then separate the lips and breathe out. I invite you here to rest for a few more minutes while we wrap up our practice. Thank you guys so much for joining today. Next week, we're gonna work on the opposite. We're gonna work on extension. So I am excited to meet you back here for that. And of course, I always invite you to move closer to us and sign up on Patreon to support us for $1 or more a month. You will help us create more of these videos, do more research, and then as a thank you, we are sharing all of our research back with you. So thanks so much for joining today, you guys. Have a wonderful day.